and thank you for joining us for this edition of Welcome to Life. I'm your host, Tim Lampley. Whether you ask for me or not, we're going to have a great discussion today as we take a deep dive discussion into an issue about Juneteenth, freedom, access, and much more. Last year, Juneteenth, June 19th, became a national holiday commemorating the end of slavery in the United States as Black people continue to struggle for the equity and inclusion that was envisioned with the Emancipation Proclamation. Perhaps we should ask ourselves, what are we doing as a collective? What meaningful actions are we taking as individuals to move things forward, to move ourselves forward? Before we get started, I want to introduce my panel of guests who will weigh in on this important discussion. To my immediate left is Ronnie Robinson, a longtime entrepreneur. Nick Solanke, who is a concerned father, in fact, a new father. Jordan Mosley, who is a student at Harris Stowe, and X, who is a community activist. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
So the first thing we want to do is start with an important question, which is Juneteenth worthy of a celebration?
I think it isn't.
Go ahead. My opinion, no. Just to have a celebration and have killing the same night that you have June 16th, when we gonna stop the killing? We got past some of the racism, some of it, but when we gonna stop killing each other? Every time it's a celebration, it's a killing.
Well, we were really thankful for another day off. We had more festivals.
Yeah,
but that's a fundamental question.
But you get off.
Is Juneteenth worthy of a celebration?
If I may input, I think it's not worthy of a celebration because of the fact of we are still practically enslaved. Many of us are actually enslaved within ourselves of our spirituality.
I agree.
And of our mindset.
Right.
And of our hearts and all of the past history. Of a domination by others of powers to be. So in my opinion, I would not too much to look to celebrate until things can be more cohesive.
Together.
We're not together as a nation of people.
Too much division.
And what I'm speaking on is of every race, not just Black. We have different types of nationalities of peoples that have been oppressed. We have the Indians, which I myself is a descendant of Native American, Cherokee, and Blackfoot is in my bloodline. I've been tracing my bloodline for some time. I'm still in the process of finding out more information, but I do not want to hold up all the time. I would like to hear everyone else's ideas of the panel as I'm sitting here.
And Nick and Jordan, what do you think in terms of celebrating the end of slavery? The fact that there was slavery to begin with is the issue.
Right. I'm just kind of thinking, why not celebrate, the freedom of our ancestors? That's what I'm just thinking of. They went through so much back in the day, so much trauma, beating, lynching. Why don't we celebrate that and we all just,
But that is what Juneteenth is, right? Celebrating the end of that oppression.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So my thing is, and I do understand with your point of, you're saying, why not just celebrating that in particular, but celebrating everything else, or, but I just think this particular Juneteenth, the holiday in itself is worthy of celebration just because, like I said, it's the freedom of our ancestors.
Exactly.
And that's what
That's a good point.
And I can kind of see both perspectives. I do think it's worthy to be celebrated just like any other holiday. Like, we have Independence Day coming up. But it's one of those things, I agree with what you said, is that we are still enslaved.
Yes, we
it's
are.
just not, not necessarily in the same physicality that it was back then, but we still have, mental slavery. And then, even in some parts of the world, we still have, some physical slavery going on. It's just not as prevalent.
Right.
As it was back in the day.
Correct.
What do you guys think are the key challenges facing the Black community today? Let's start with you, X.
From my perspective, I see, sir, we don't have most of the
calling me
resources
sir.
that we need.
Exactly. That's fine.
And the reason why of that, because one situation with it is we don't know anything of our history, of our past. It's all been taken from us. It's been destroyed. It's been emancipated, basically. It's been wow, from the time of, I can remember the beginning of civilization, that by these resources not around, how can we obtain what we need if we don't have the resources necessary or the knowledge to try to come out of these defecation of situation things that we're having?
That's
Key issues
And I think
facing.
and that's why I say, till we come together, the gaps, not with just African Americans, with all race, to get a better understanding. Where is our future going to be?
Yeah, and you have some firsthand knowledge about the struggle that it takes in black communities when you lose someone who's close to you and no one wants to talk about it, no one wants to deal with it. That is a disease in the community. Talk a little bit about that.
After losing a son in 2015, turn around and lose a son in Illinois, I can say I'm thankful for Illinois because they solved the situation. They didn't look at who I was as a father. They looked at the concern.
But what was the situation? Explain that a
and
little
over
bit.
here, the concern was communication. They didn't break the communication gap. Not even with the mayor. Nobody broke a communication gap. It was, let's get to the bottom of this. This happened in our city. Let's get to the bottom of this.
But I'm trying to understand what was going through your mind when this happened in terms of how you could get people on board in your community to be as concerned about losing someone in that community. Even though it's your child, you want everybody else to be.
In Illinois, I didn't really have to get no one on board. They contact me, and I appreciate it.
So you didn't really have a struggle.
I didn't have a struggle.
Okay.
It's a different from Illinois and Missouri. In Illinois, I didn't have a struggle, and I didn't have no one to fight against me. Over there in Illinois, I had people concerned. You know, I seen this, I know this, but when it came to Missouri.
Okay, so let's just be clear. You're saying one of your children was killed in Illinois, and the other was killed in Missouri. And in Illinois, you had people who were on board,
right?
And that's the kind of example you would like to have seen.
That I thought I would see
Missouri.
in St. Louis. You know, 3 years later in St. Louis, I didn't have the concern.
Was it your community or outside of your community that was the challenge?
Well, first of all, I don't live in the St. Louis city, but if anything in the St. Louis city, when you got your politicians fighting against each other and you caught in the middle, and that's where I was. I was caught in the middle as a father. You know, I went to Kim Gardner, I went to the chief, I went to Chief Hayden at that time, told me a goody that he wasn't even the chief. Stood there and told me, I'm not the chief. I asked him on a panel in front of a room full of police, why would you lie to me? You didn't think I was gonna find out?
So what would have made that situation better? What kind of communication should we have seen?
Just speaking who you are. The truth. I'm legit. I ain't been fingerprinted. If you the chief and I ain't been fingerprinted, I'm coming to you to talk to you as a man. Take my burden and like these young men. This young man here just got to have a daughter. He ain't gonna take it lightly. That young man ain't gonna take it lightly.
So that breakdown in communication,
right?
Lack of concern over here, that became a problem for you and your family.
And that's why I say June 16th shouldn't be a celebration, because we are not respecting each other, first of all. Yeah, they put it together, but first of all, like I said, if we're not going to respect each other and then have a killing that same night, come on, man.
And I want you guys to weigh in on this type of thing that's happening in terms of your generation. How do they look at things of that nature that happen, and to families? Are they just sort of self-centered about what's going on in their own world, or would they care about something like this that would happen to another family, another father?
I honestly think a lot of people nowadays are kind of disengaged just because it happens so much.
It's nothing.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
it all ain't nothing but a routine.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, I think, like I said, it happens so frequently in our community that people nowadays, they're kind of numb to it. And then I think what the major problem is really just the socialization and like growing up and how you're raised. So I think that definitely plays a part of it and contributes to the problem as well. Because everybody doesn't have, the same type of people around them to lead them and guide them. Like I was fortunate, to have very good parents as well as friends around me to show me the way. But other people, they aren't as privy to that information or to those surroundings. So.
And that's what I think what hurts us the most in our community is we grow up with a lot of single parent households. Yeah. And the father's not there, the mother's not there. Those are two critical components in your life as a child that you need growing up, mentally, physically, different concepts of development. And I think that's what's kind of, this society is going to now. We have a lot of, single parents in this generation more than ever, back in you guys, I don't want to call y'all older.
It's okay.
But back in you guys, the mother and father was in the house, but like.
Turned 50. So, I mean, hey.
But but now this generation, my generation, even my friends, when I go over their house, it's just either one parent in the house or it's just kind of unorganized, and I think it's just kind of how it translates to the child, or where they're growing up unorganized, and it's not really changing anything, because like I said, it all starts in the home.
Yeah.
Correct.
And
This is a really great discussion. Hold that thought. We're going to take a break. Ooh, we're just getting started. We'll be right back.
Feeling adventurous? Want to spice up your life? Adventures in Spice leads the way in fresh spices that add flavor to your best dishes. Travel to foreign places with your taste buds and check out spice blends like gluten-free Mississippi Bend barbecue seasoning and rub, or Spanish seafood and rice season. Delve into your more adventurous side of savory dishes and take a look at the many spices we have for you to choose from at www.adventuresinspice.com.
I got my COVID-19 vaccination, and here's why. This isn't about gimmicks or sentiment or what commercial I like. This is about facts. COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective. Millions of doses have already been given in the United States, and these vaccines have the most intensive safety monitoring in U.S. history. When you need more information, use a reliable source like the CDC website and get the facts.
Ever since I came to Harris Stowe, it's made me realize that there are people here from different walks of life, but yet we're all in the same institution with the same goal.
A big change for me was meeting a lot of people that I felt as though were ahead of me. They were my age, but they all were on full ride scholarships. They had business plans. They knew what they wanted to do with their lives. I got here and I knew that I had to raise the bar for myself.
Since I've been here, I've changed socially, academically, also professionally, and they give you such a great support system and make it really easy to change for the better.
When I come home from school after graduation, my parents are gonna see a man. They won't see the same boy that they dropped off 4 years prior.
Joining all of the great organizations here, like student government, different NAACP organizations that help you get active with other students and actually change their lives while they're here.
Harris Stowe taught me that you can be the first generation whatever. You don't have to be the first generation college student, but you can be the first generation of what you want to be. Because that's what it's about, is the innate feeling in you. If you're the best person you can be, change is inevitable.
The change I want to make in the world is appreciation for differences. I want to see a generation of young black youth grow up and unapologetically be themselves.
The change I would like to make in the world is to show people that there's value to life.
Changing the world will start with once we love ourselves and love others. I think that as corny as that sounds, it can make a world of a difference.
Change happens here.
Change.
Happens here.
Change happens here.
Change definitely happens here, and I think that when you come to Harris Stowe, you'll notice a difference in yourself when you self-reflect, and you'll be grateful that you made the decision.
Back now to Welcome to Life. I'm Tim Lampley, your host, and I just want to reintroduce my guest here, Ronnie Robinson, an entrepreneur, Nick Solanke, who is a new father, Jordan Mosley, who's a student at Harris Stowe University, and a community activist. Gentlemen,
Hello.
one of the things that I wanted to ask about, I heard a mother say recently who lost a child, she said blacks are just spiritually and mentally broken. Is that the case? And if that's the case, how do we come back from that? How do we find help? How do we
get resources? I understand what you're saying. I want this young man to really put it out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think in order to do better, we have to want better for ourselves.
There you go.
And I know for me, growing up, so my older brother actually was in counseling, but growing up, I always kind of had the mindset that, you know, if you were going to a counselor, something was wrong with you. So I think mentally, I saw it as like a bad thing to like seek out help and to talk to somebody.
A counselor, or you mean a therapist,
or like,
a
yeah, like a
professional?
therapist,
Right.
for sure. Yes.
But that stigma isn't as much as it used to be, like maybe years ago.
Right.
Like now, I've heard people brag about, hey,
Right.
you know, I have a therapist.
And you see,
almost
that's
as if
why he
some
was
sort
saying.
of-
That's why he was saying.
Which is a good thing.
for
though.
us now. Back then it was, but like he said, now he go ahead.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
You
that's
see
all
what
right.
you thought.
Yeah, so I think it's a change in narrative, and then sometimes I think also it's a ego thing, especially for men. I feel like a lot of times women are more prone to seek out help from a professional therapist, whereas men, you know, sometimes we try to kind of deal with things on our own.
That masculinity gets in the way. of a lot of
Exactly.
things.
Yeah, pride is it's crazy. So.
And I'm so glad to have you guys here. It's very rare that you see shows. We've got 4, 5 black men having a discussion. You see all of these shows on television, and I don't think there's one on national TV that has this many African American
And I
men
appreciate
talking about
it.
issues that are really, really important.
Thank you.
Tell
Thank
me
you.
what we can do to find those resources, or what do you think we can do to better support each other when we're talking about dealing with mental illness in the country?
Well, if I may touch on it, first and foremost is that the world has forgotten about, well, most people call the maker God. I do not. I call him Yahweh. Again, I'm not religious. I'm a spiritual being, which we all are spiritual beings.
Right.
Sure.
So that's the first thought. Once they took blessings out of your schools, they took prayer out of your workplace, things changed.
So your thing is we need to bring back prayer,
That's what you do.
and we need to seek help when we need it.
Yes, sir.
We got so far away from God, because I call him God, I'm spiritual.
That's fine.
And we got so far away from him to the point that we don't even look at our own kids like we used to. Grandmama gone now,
Yes.
granddaddy gone now. Brother ain't like he used to be, uncles ain't like they used to be, cousins ain't like they used to be. And I say this all the time. You'll put a security guard in a bank, but won't put a security guard in the school. But you'll protect the money. What about the money can be made for the education of the kids?
Because they're not
No one look at the future. I'm a block away from 60, got 13 grandkids. Might not see them all graduate. But one thing I tell anybody, he need to meet him, he need to meet him, he need to meet him, he need to meet you, because somebody got something to put in each one of these kids out here, because they ain't number sponges.
Amen.
And that's what we heard coming up all my life.
And speaking of that, how can we as black men advocate for each other? How can we be more supportive for each other?
First of
and
all-
educate ourselves
first of all-
on how we can do that.
Speak to each other,
For sure.
compliment each other.
Respect.
Don't look down
That's
on
right.
each other.
That's right. That's right.
Our biggest thing of it is if you get your blessing today, how many people gonna say, "Oh, you think you that?" You don't think you that, but they think you that. And the reason they think that because they ain't where you are. It ain't nobody in the same category, but everybody have got away from God to the point that when he get their attention, first thing they say is, "Why I'm getting punished."
Ronnie, I want to come to you. Are you from a single family household, or it was your mother? Both? Did you have both parents in your household?
Oh yeah,
Jordan,
yeah.
I'm sorry,
yeah,
Jordan.
That's
yeah.
okay.
No,
I cut it off
Right.
because I knew you was talking to that young man.
Yeah, yes, sir. I have two parents in my household. Growing up with my parents, both of them in the household, they got married, didn't have me kind of the traditional way. But I appreciate them because, they were tough on me when I was young, especially my father. And then just because now that I look at it, I'm not in trouble. I'm not in jail. I'm, out here living life in college, doing what I'm supposed to do.
So what I'm
dressed,
trying to find out is your
Yes,
support
sir.
system. I'm trying to find out your support system. You're a student now in Harrisville State University, and you had your mother and father. Of course, there are many, probably 50% of all homes don't. But did you find support outside of that? Because it takes a village.
Yeah.
How supportive was it
Yes, it does.
outside of that family for you?
It was very supportive, just to my uncles, just to my cousins, even
That's what
some
I
of
was
my,
talking
my
about.
faculty, my
Teachers?
school teachers, counselors, even my
Neighbors?
one of my my neighbors too. I just remember growing up in my childhood, my neighbors, they're my contact at the school. So whenever I got sick, my neighbors, they would come pick me up, take me to the house, or if I was sick or anything. And even now, my mentor at Harrisville State University, Coach Powell, he's been a good mentor to me, helped me with credit, businesses. And just the support outside of my family, it just feels good to know that, you don't have to always rely on your family, but they're there, but other people, they can help come surround you and make you better.
Nick, black men be more supportive of each other.
I
do we do
definitely.
it?
I think one, recognizing problems. If you need to seek out help, and also not being afraid to speak to your friends. Like I know I have that one friend that I know it doesn't matter what it is, what topic it is, I can always reach out to him, and I know he won't judge me. It's a judge-free zone, and I can talk to him literally about anything.
X, what about people out here who aren't on the journeys that these young men are on? What about those who are out here in the prison system, who are out here shooting, killing, out here committing crimes? How do we support them? How do we help them to grow and educate themselves to be better?
The first thing is to, first of all, you have to try to reach out to them, to communicate with them. And another
Don't
thing,
just write them off.
right. Don't
They
don't
are
write them off.
important.
First of all, we have not the right to judge anyone because us of ourselves as individuals still have imperfections. We're still, some of us, or many, all of us are unclean. It's like this. When you're born out of your mother, we're all committed of sin because the flesh is born of sin. So not to get away from what you're saying, what we have to do, like I say, you don't write them off, you don't judge them. And most of the time, a lot of people just what we're saying is they didn't have a home structure.
Right.
Like you said, some didn't even have both parents. It could have been a situation where their parents passed before they were born, incarcerated.
Have you had any experience with people who were incarcerated?
Oh yes, sir. I have a relative right now that's locked up for murder he did not commit, and they will not let him out. He's been locked up for over, oh my Lord, I want to probably remember, I say in the 80s. I have not seen him since then, and the system will not let him out. And he did not commit this heinous crime.
Does he have access to attorneys? I assume he doesn't have access to his own attorneys.
I'm not too sure, because I know that the case is basically cold. No one would take it and reopen it. I believe, to be honest, I'm really not that really close-knitted with my family as I once was.
And
So,
why is that?
well, this is like, as we were saying, the problem we're having is as a community, as peoples, we have so much hatred and so much just dismemberment within ourselves.
Are we too busy pointing fingers at everybody and looking for leaders instead of just being leaders ourselves? Oh, that's
We got too many. We got too many people got titles and worry about the income versus worry about the future. So we realize that if you ain't got that income, will you have that attitude? Will you have that attitude? You find a lot of people like these young men. I commend these young men for one reason. I wish I was their age to sit on a panel coming up, but I had a strong father. That made a difference. I had a strong grandmother. I had strong aunties and uncles.
But I want to get to my question of where are our leaders, and are we looking for leaders when we should just be leaders ourselves?
Right.
I think we should all be
We
leaders
all
separately.
leaders.
Basically, it's about being accountable for yourself. That's the
right.
problem.
We all-
We're
Be
pointing a
accountable.
lot of fingers,
Yeah.
and
Right,
we're
be
asking
accountable.
where are the people to lead the community and lead the but
But that's also an issue, like you said, is accountability.
Accountability.
So I think we all have to individually focus in on ourselves and being the best possible us, because then collectively as a unit,
We can
we'll
build.
shine brighter and we can,
We
like you
can
said, we
build.
can build. There you go.
We can build.
For sure.
You know, like I said earlier, if I never give a compliment to another man would always feel like he's not important. Even if he made a mistake and went to jail and trying to get his life right, I can't look at him and say, well, you ain't right. You know?
I'd like for somebody to weigh in real quick on, while crime victims don't always become offenders, most offenders have been victims. Is that the disease that has ravaged our country in terms of the black community? So let me say that again. While crime victims don't always become offenders, most offenders have been victims.
That's true.
That's true.
So in many different ways,
Right.
You know, some have been molested, some have been turned out by their people at home. They've been victimized.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So they're offenders. Is that the disease that we are working
that's
to fight?
that's a
that's part of
disease
it.
that
Yes, it is.
we working, but and I say this again, we have to put forgiveness in our heart, and we have to focus on everyone is important. Everyone.
And Ronnie, that's going to have to be our last word. I wanted to get more from you guys on that, but perhaps on the next show we'll start there and we will continue that important discussion. Gentlemen, thank you so
No,
much
thank you.
for
Thank you.
being
Thank you.
here
Sure.
again. Let me just say, Ronnie, Nick, Jordan, and X, I got them all right. Thanks again for being here. And join us again next time for Welcome to Life. I'm Tim Lampley, your host, and we'll see you again. Goodbye, everybody.